Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome to another edition of Inside Arsenal. It is the start of another week, and I hope wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world, your Monday is going as well as it possibly could be. Plenty to discuss today. Attention already turning to Wednesday night's trip to West Ham in the Carabao Cup. Should be an interesting game, that one. The Declan Rice derby, as people are describing it. Although saying that, I've got a feeling Declan Rice probably won't play because of the game. Small little matter of Newcastle away coming up on the Saturday, but we'll look at that. Aaron Ramsdale will certainly be making his return. So the team will talk about that and the sort of pressure, I suppose, that he is under to perform now, Aaron Ramsdale. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about who else could be playing in that game. Got plenty of comments from you guys, of course. Eddie Nketiah has been talking as well about the sort of pressure that he's under, I suppose you can call that, to perform in the absence of Gabriel Jesus. So plenty to discuss. And of course, anything you want to say, any opinions you've got on Arsenal, any questions you've got, anything about who you want to see play against West Ham on Wednesday night, let me know in the comments below. I'll try and get you all involved in a show over the next couple of days or so. And of course, myself and James Benj will be sitting down tomorrow for this week's Inside Arsenal Extra Time. So anything you want me and James to discuss a little bit more in depth in tomorrow's extended show, then please do let me know again by leaving a comment below. Okay, let's get started, shall we? Let's talk about Aaron Ramsdale and the players who could well be coming in for this game against West Ham on Wednesday night. West Ham, of course, lost yesterday at home to Everton, surprisingly enough, in the Premier League. Dominic Calvert-Lewin scoring there. So disappointing result for West Ham going into this game. It'll be interesting to see what West Ham do as well. I think they'll probably fancy their chances, West Ham, at this game. They'll look at it and think Arsenal are going to make changes, and that makes me think that David Moyes might well go pretty strong for this game. I still think Arsenal are going to have a strong side. Like I say, Aaron Ramsdale's going to come in. There's no doubt about that. He started against Brentford in the last game. He'll start again in this one. And it's going to be interesting to see how Aaron does. He was so good. Like, Aaron Ramsdale thrives, I think, in competition. I remember a comment from Matt Turner last year in the mix zone when we spoke to him. And he said every time he came in for a cup game and thought he did well and thought, oh, I might be able to put a little bit of pressure on Aaron here for the number one spot. The next game, when Ramsdale came back into the team, he always had an absolute blinder. And yeah, Matt Turner was saying, that's just the kind of guy he is. He kind of probably senses the competition a little bit, and he came back in and just slowly and quickly, shut the door straight away on any hope that Matt Turner had. And when we saw Aaron come in against Brentford last time out, he was exceptional. Obviously, it didn't get him back into the team. I've had my say on that. I think it's pretty clear, no matter what Mikel said initially, which I think was just kind of manager talk, to be fair anyway, about there being a sort of, two number ones competing for the same thing. David Raya is Arsenal's number one. It's pretty obvious. That's become very, very clear over the last few weeks. So no matter how well Aaron plays this week against West Ham, I still think it'll be David Raya in goal for Newcastle on Saturday. But there is still a lot of pressure, I think, on Aaron, because he knows he has to perform. He knows he has to impress. If he comes in against West Ham, drops a couple of clangers, Arsenal go out, and everyone's looking at that saying, oh, that's why David Raya's in the team. So he does have a lot of pressure, but he does thrive under that. And so I have no concerns about Ramsdale coming in a little bit cold for this game. I think he'll come in. He'll probably get a fair bit of stick from the West Ham fans. He did against Brentford last time out, but he loved it. You could see he loved it. It's something that Ramsdale really sort of thrives on and feeds off. And you could see that sort of banter he was having with the Brentford fans throughout that game because of the grief they were giving him. When he made that save, he tipped onto the post, he immediately turned around and celebrated in front of the Brentford fans. And that's just the kind of thing he will do. So, yeah, I've got no real concerns about Aaron Ramsdale coming in for this one. I think he'll have a really positive game. I'm sure he will. And hopefully he can have a really decent performance and help Arsenal get through and get the win that they need. Declan Rice, of course, is going to be the centre of attention. This will be his first trip back to West Ham. If he makes a trip, I certainly don't think he'll start. He might well be in the squad. He might be on the bench. Mikel does tend to, when he does rotate in these League Cup games, he does tend to leave himself quite a strong squad to put players on if needs be. And I don't think he'll want to throw this competition away. I think he'll want to win this competition. He'll see it as silverware. I think it's really important for Arsenal as well. And for Arteta, he does need to win some silverware. It'd be very, very nice. Look, he's doing fantastic things at Arsenal. He's building a great squad. He's done, he's taken the club onto a level that just a couple of years ago you thought they had no chance of reaching. But you do want to back that up with silverware. The FA Cup was a few seasons ago now. And yes, this might be the Carabao Cup, but it's still a trophy, and trophies are very hard to win, and there aren't many of them that you can win. So I don't think he will throw it away. He will make changes, no doubt about it, but I think he will have potentially a strong squad, and Declan Rice could well be in that squad. And if he's on the bench, then he's going to get. It'll be interesting, shall we say, in terms of the reception he get. You know, he was a hero at West Ham. He led them to their European trophy last season, but he did leave. He left to Arsenal. That annoyed the fans. I think they all wanted him to go to Manchester City. He didn't. He went to Arsenal. And it will be really interesting what sort of reception he will get. I'm sure some will react pretty positively to him. I'm sure others won't. For Declan, he's the type of character and the type of personality that I don't think it will affect him or impact him. I think he'll brush it off, and he'll just, if he does play, if he does feature, he'll come in and he'll just play his usual game. I don't think it's something that's going to necessarily impact him. But Mikel's speaking tomorrow at his press conference at London Colney ahead of this game, and I'm sure he'll give us maybe a little bit of a clue as to whether Declan Rice will be involved. I don't think he'll say if he'll start or anything like that, but I think he might get a clue. I'm sure lots of the questions are going to dominate because it is Declan Rice's first return to West Ham, or potential first return to West Ham. So it will dominate. And yeah, if he does go there, it's going to be a very interesting side note, I would say, on this game. But I would be stunned if Declan Rice started this game, I have to admit. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Who do you think should start when Arsenal line up against West Ham tomorrow? Matt Harvey here has actually sent in the team that he thinks we will see on Saturday. So on Wednesday night, sorry. So he's gone Ramsdale in goal. He's gone Tomiyasu, Saliba, Kivior, and White as the back four. He's gone Jorginho, Smith Rowe, and Havertz as the midfield, and he's gone Nelson, Nketiah, and Vieira as the front three, which I don't think you're going to be far off there, Matt. I do wonder if we might well see Tomiyasu next to Kivior. Tomiyasu next to Saliba at centre-back and potentially Kivior at left-back. That's what we saw against Brentford. Tomiyasu did very, very well. He played alongside Gabriel that day. I agree. I think it will probably be Saliba this week because Gabriel sat out the game at the weekend against Sheffield United. So I think Saliba will get the... I think Gabriel will play this weekend on Wednesday night because Gabriel got the rest against Sheffield United. So I think Saliba will get the rest this week ahead of Newcastle, and it will be Gabriel and Tomiyasu potentially at centre-back with Kivior as the left-back. I agree. I think Ben White probably plays at right-back. I think a lot depends on Gabriel Jesus. Now, obviously, Arsenal weren't sure if Jesus was going to make this game against Newcastle on Saturday. I think it's probably doubtful he will. It seems like it's going to be longer than Newcastle. And so that means that Eddie will probably start that game. And I do wonder if that might impact Mikel's thinking on Wednesday night. If Eddie's definitely going to start against Newcastle on Saturday, maybe he'll be rested on Wednesday night. And we could see Havertz potentially play as the number 9, and that would see someone else potentially come into that midfield role. I think Jorginho plays. Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. Smith Rowe plays. 100%. I agree with that. Potentially, we might see Vieira drop back into that midfield role instead of Havertz. Havertz plays as the 9, and then you kind of do what you did last time out against Brentford. Maybe play one of the youngsters as the right winger. You got Kozia Dubry. You got Charles Sago Jr. who played against Brentford. So there are a few options there, but I don't think you're going to be a million miles off by any means, Matt, with that team selection. I think it'll be very, very close to that. And then I think players like, Odegaard, Rice, potentially, those sort of players, we could well see, even Saliba, those sort of players we could see on the bench, and the likes of Cedric and people like that. Okay, some comments here from Eddie Nketiah that I thought were quite interesting. He spoke to the press in the mix zone after the game, and this is some of the stuff he had to say at the weekend. He was asked about, how difficult it is being behind or being seen as being behind Gabriel Jesus, and does he feel like he has to work really, really hard and come in and make a point whenever he gets the opportunity. He says, look, I just focus on being the best player I can and improving day in, day out. I know how good I can be when I'm on it, when I'm working hard, and my teammates believe and trust in me. That's the most important thing for me. The rest is just noise. Sometimes you get the credit, sometimes you don't. You have to be consistent and keep pushing every day. We have a lot of quality players in all positions, and we are all fighting and working hard every day to be out there and to help the team. I just focus on being the best player I can and improving day in, day out. I know how good I can be when I'm on it. Oh, sorry, that's what I've already said that. put the same quote in twice there. But yeah, that's what he's been talking about. And look, Eddie's got a really good mindset. He's a real professional. He's very his mentality is very good. That's why Mikel Arteta likes him. And he continues to pick him and play him. He really likes his attitude. He likes what he shows in training. He's talked about it before. Sometimes he's forced his way into the team purely because of how he's been on the training ground during the week. And he's just turned Mikel's head, and Mikel's thought, I've got to play him after this. And that's what you're going to get from Eddie. And, he's such a hard worker. I know some people look at it and think, is he good enough? Should he be in and around this Arsenal team? But I think he's a really valuable squad player. I talked about this in yesterday's show. I thought this was an interesting comment from Jane here. He said, is Eddie Henry or Bergkamp? No. Is he Vilsord? Maybe. He is definitely an Adiadier. He will never be a cult hero like Kanu, but he is as effective. He's not a Van Persie because he's not a complete. We need a new striker, and we need to keep him and enjoy the heck out of him. See, this is what I agree with. I agree Arsenal need a new striker. I think they definitely need to sign a new striker. If not in January, then definitely in the summer. But that shouldn't be a replacement for Nketiah, in my view. That should be in addition to Nketiah, because I think Nketiah is a really valuable member of this squad, and I think he should continue to be a really valuable member in this squad. He will score goals when needs be. He might not score 25 goals a season, but there are very few players who will score 25 goals a season, but he will score goals. He's been a really important player at times last season in Jesus' absence. He's already scored 5 Premier League goals this season, and I think he's a really important player. And yes, he's not an Henry. He's not a Bergkamp, as Jane says here. But there are other players in that squad who made impacts during that time, those great strikers. And that's what Eddie is. He's a player who can come in and make an impact when called upon. He can work hard and he can deliver. And he's got a really good mentality. And I'm delighted to see him having the success he had at the weekend. And hopefully now he can sort of build on from that, because he needs to build on for that. It's not about doing it just one game. He needs to do it on a more consistent basis. And that's what we've seen from Eddie. Like, he started the season well. He scored against Forest, didn't he? Scored against Fulham. But then he went sort of 6 or 7 games without a goal. That needs to stop. You need to score a little bit more consistently when you get your opportunities. And he's had plenty of opportunities this season. Hopefully this can be the sort of confidence boost. We saw what the confidence boost of just those first 2 goals gave him. The fact he took that shot on for the hat-trick goal and he scored it the way he did. I don't think he would have tried that if he hadn't scored yet. But that's what confidence can do to a striker. And you would think he's going to be full of confidence now after that hat-trick. And hopefully that will be really beneficial to Arsenal over the next few weeks if Gabriel Jesus is out for a long period of time. So yeah, well done, Eddie. I thought those comments were good comments from him. And hopefully he can really sort of kick on, like I said, and be a very important player over the next few weeks. Okay, I do have a few comments from you guys at the end, questions as well, but I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the sort of makeup at the Premier League now after 10 games. I've got the table there. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see it. Arsenal sitting second behind that team that we won't mention for now, who are 2 points clear at the top of the table. Had a very good start to the season. Of course, Manchester City with that win against Man United yesterday at Old Trafford, really comfortable win for United. For City, United were just awful, but City were very good, but United were awful. And then Liverpool making up the top 4. Unai Emery's Villa, fantastic so far for them this season as well, making up the top 5. So 4 points separate the top 5 there. Spurs, we will mention them. We have to kind of now top of the table. Arsenal, City, Liverpool and Villa. And it is very, very tight. And you kind of look at that table. Tottenham are obviously the big unknown. Tottenham kind of, it feels like it's a mirror kind of what happened with Arsenal last season. They started so well. No one expected them to do anything. They got loads of momentum and they just carried that on. And I think Tottenham are doing that now. They're riding the crest of a wave. Whether they can maintain it, not just for the whole season, but whether they can maintain it over the next 10 or so games. They've got some tricky fixtures coming up. It'll be very interesting to see how they do that. But they're a good team. They're clearly a good team. They're full of confidence. They're scoring goals. I think they made some really smart sign-ins who have helped them. So do I expect them to absolutely fall away? Not necessarily. No, they have got, out of everyone, I think I look at the squad, certainly that top 4, and I think they've got the weakest of squad, and a couple of injuries could impact them. But you've got to remember, they've got no football to worry about other than the Premier League. Certainly not to the FA Cup. They're already out the Carabao Cup. They've not got European football, so they can just go week by week, and that gives them a better chance of managing the squad. So I think they'll be there or thereabouts. I don't think they're going to win the league, but I think they'll be there or thereabouts this season. They've got a very good manager. City, we know what City do. They've had a couple of defeats so far this season. Obviously, the one to Arsenal, the one to Wolves, which was the really surprising one. Liverpool, I think, looked really good. Had it not been for that ridiculous game against Spurs when they got done over by VAR, then maybe Liverpool would be sitting top of the table right now. And they've made some really good investments. I think Szoboszlai is playing really, really well. I really like Darwin Núñez, despite the fact he misses goals. I think he causes chaos up there. Salah's just doing what Salah always does. And they're looking better defensively than they did last season, Liverpool. So, they've only seen 9 goals, one more than Arsenal. And I think when you looked at Liverpool last year, you just thought they concede in so many goals, and that's their problem. They're not really doing that this season. And I think Liverpool are going to be right up there. I really, really do. I don't think it's going to be a case of just maybe, a lot of people looking at Arsenal and City thinking they're going to be the top 2. I think Liverpool are going to be right up there. They're certainly showing signs that they will be. So I think it's really well evenly poised after 10 games this Premier League season. Arsenal have had a good start. They're unbeaten. Have they hit top gear? Probably not. Is that a good thing? In my view, yes. Last year, Arsenal flew out of the blocks, and it was very hard to maintain that kind of form. It was almost impossible to maintain that kind of form. If they did, they would have broken all sorts of records. They didn't. But this season, you look at it, they're not losing games. They're winning games. They're not conceding too many goals. They're now, look at that. Only Villa, I think, have scored more than them this season. And we've always looked at Arsenal this season, think maybe they haven't hit the ground running in terms of an attacking sense, but they've still scored 23 goals in 10 games now. And they've got a lot of room for improvement. I think that's a positive. Now, I certainly view it as a positive. So I think the Premier League's really evenly poised at this stage of the season. I'd love to get your thoughts. What do you view? How do you view it when you're looking at how all the teams are playing so far this season? How do you think they are going to do? Do you worry about Tottenham? Do you think they will fall away? And do you think it will just be Arsenal and City, or do you think Liverpool are going to really push as well for this league title? Let me know, as always, in the comments below. Okay, a couple of questions here. This was an interesting one, or comments even more than the question. This was a really interesting one that I wanted to talk about. From, I think it's Nazy Bonsu 8120 says, Rice is good, but he doesn't break lines with his passes. And I think this is one of the reasons we are not as fluid. The number 6 role is supposed to be the generator, the guy who starts attacks and forward passes, the playmaker. Rice has good energy, heart and bite, but Partey has that silk on the ball and speeds up our play. I noticed that Rice does a lot of lateral passes and takes a lot of touches before passing. This is why, for me, Partey is integral. If Partey ends up leaving in the summer, we would definitely need a deep line midfielder who breaks lines with his passes and speed and precision. Rice can't do that. He has other attributes. A good comment there, interesting one. I don't necessarily agree that Rice can't do that. I think we've seen Rice do that in the last few games. Maybe not the standard that Thomas Partey is. Obviously, Thomas Partey is one of his great attributes. It's what makes him such a special footballer. And I think you're right. Rice can't do yet what Thomas Partey can do, but Rice is very young still, and he's going to improve and continuing to improve. But I am seeing him break lines more with his passes and being a little bit more incisive with his passes. I've seen it in the last few weeks. He's done a couple of passes that have really reminded me of Thomas, when it looked like he's going to be playing him out wide, and then suddenly just whips it through to Zinchenko or someone like that in the central areas. I've seen that in the last couple of games. Even the pass he did for Eddie Nketiah to set up the first goal. A lot of people were looking at that thinking he was just going to lay it off, but he just whipped it in sort of round the corner, broke through the midfield, beat the defence, and Eddie Nketiah scored from that. So I think Rice has the attributes to really grow into that role as the kind of 6, as a conductor, or what did you call him there? I can't find the generator you could describe that. I think Rice can do that. I think long term that is the position that Arsenal are going to be moving. I don't see Rice long term being a left 8 or something like that in this Arsenal midfield. I think he will be the 6. It'll be a slightly different 6 to Thomas Partey, but I think he will be the 6. But I do agree. I think there's some really good points in that comment. So thank you very much for sending that in. And that is it for today, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate your time. Anything you've agreed with, disagreed with, let me know in the comments below. Anything you want me and James to discuss in tomorrow's Inside Arsenal Extra Time, again, please do let me know in the comments below, and we'll try and pick some of those out and go through them in tomorrow's show. Until then, everyone, have a very good Monday. I hope your start to your week is decent, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.